Ofwat this week announced that water bills are going to rise on an average of 36%. Under the Conservatives, they didn't see many rises, and the Labour government have said that this is the reason why there has to be such a big hike. Is it something you're for or against, Lee?
Oh, well, what, the actual rate rises themselves?
The rate rises. Do you think it's fair in a cost of living crisis for them to rate it so high?
No, of course not. I'm a pragmatist in as much as that, if there's a desperate need to increase rates for something, then I understand that. But water is a bit of a conundrum for me. You might almost hear a slightly left-wing viewpoint from me on this. I am very torn about how we deal with our water companies. I don't think there is a single person in this country that will look at what's happened with investors taking out, 85 billion or something like that over the past decade out of water companies, and yet not investing a single penny. Now that is capitalism just simply not working. And arguably, it's very difficult to have a capitalist system within a monopolistic system like our water companies. It doesn't really make a huge amount of sense. It's not like you can, choose your water company or pick the best deal or things like that. It just doesn't work that way. So I am pretty torn about how it works. But I think is going to grind the gears of the public is the amount of money that has been taken out of these water companies, the almost non-existent investment into the infrastructure, and yet the bill payers are going to have to pick up the tab for this utter disastrous situation. So I do have sympathy, believe it or not, with people on the left who say that we should bring these into public ownership. The problem that I have with bringing them into public ownership, it will cost us an absolute fortune. It will cost billions and billions of pounds to take these. And honestly, I don't trust the public sector to run our water companies efficiently either. So I am genuinely torn about it. But if I had to make a choice right now, I wouldn't nationalise them. I'd keep them privatised, but I would somehow change that system and maybe think of ways of penalising the people who run these companies in a way that they are unable to get away with what it is they're doing. I don't know, cancel bonuses or make it illegal for them to take money out of the company without X amount of investment in, because at the end of the day, this is a critical part of our infrastructure. And at the moment, the whole system is completely broken.
Well, that's why they're saying it's 104 billion investment into infrastructure, upgrades to water infrastructure, services, tackling environment issues with sewages. David, have they got a clear argument as to why? I mean, the Labour government blame the Conservatives, as they have done for everything almost, as to why they're having to allow this rise to go through. If it's for infrastructure, is it going to be a short-term rise? Do you think they need to come out and say, well, look, it's a short-term rise because we need to get this capital in to do the improvements, and then we can bring it back down again, and everyone will be happy?
I mean, what's clear is that it's the system isn't working, particularly when you look at sewage and particularly when you look at investment in future projects. It's not there. I mean, again, living in Cornwall, I mean, if we want to go to the sea, we want to go surfing, we have to check an app to see if there's been sewage discharges in the beaches. And, even today, it's not safe to go swimming or surfing in the local beach. And on top of that, every summer we get a hosepipe ban. I mean, those are little things, but the point is that it isn't working, particularly on the sewage side. And my worry with this is that if these prices go up, and that that does happen, what's the guarantee that these changes will absolutely be made, or that it's not wasted or spent or something else? And that's the worry that I have. That you can't. I don't think, certainly can't trust the water companies, and probably not also the government when it comes to this, because they've shown time and time again that they haven't invested in water in this country. They haven't invested in tackling the severe sewage problem we have in our seas and rivers, which is embarrassing. I mean, and I think, so that's, I wouldn't mind paying more for a water bill if there was a guarantee that we will have a sustainable water supply in future that, is brought into the modern world, and that we don't pollute our own seas and rivers. But I just don't trust whether it's the regulator, the water companies, or the government when it comes to that, because they've proven time and time again they can't be trusted.
I mean, Thames Water have said that they are financially struggling too. They wanted a 59% increase themselves, and they wanted a £3 billion loan to stay operational. I mean, as constituents, we don't have a choice of who our water supplier is. It's forced upon us. Do you think there's an opportunity for it to become maybe part state, part private? So then, as owners, because obviously being the government running it, there is some sort of responsibility. You need to answer to people, because a private company at this moment in time doesn't necessarily need to answer. Do you think there's an opportunity for that, Lee, in terms of a split between the two, privatisation as well as state-owned?
To be honest, I think that's possibly the only way forward. I agree with what's just been said. My own feelings are exactly the same. I do not trust it to be run efficiently and well within the public sector. And as we can see, it's not been run well at all in the private sector. So maybe a new approach is needed. If a hybrid approach is the right one, brilliant. But we do need to do something different. It's definitely not working. It is an absolute disgrace. But going back to your original point, one thing that, I too would be happy to pay more if there was a guarantee that the water supply would be better and we weren't, dumping so much sewage into the waters. That's appalling. But the tax burden, people just simply can't afford it at the moment. We're expected to have, you've seen the budget, what's going to come in next year. It's not just going to be hitting businesses with the rise to national insurance of businesses. It's going to be hitting people's jobs. People are losing their jobs through to net zero. Companies aren't hiring as much. People haven't got as much money in their pockets. So I do sympathise with the fact that this Labour government is getting in and everything seems to be going up. They promised not to raise electricity bills. Electricity bills are going up. They're telling us that water bills are going up. I just don't think people can physically cope with it anymore. So yes, I do think that there needs to be some sort of government intervention. I just do not think that it should be completely publicly owned. It's going to cost too much money.
Labour say they promised the pledges to ring-fence the investment for the infrastructure improvement, particularly to clean up rivers, lakes and seas, which again, if happens, the additional £31 and some pence a year for the next 5 years, I think the average person wouldn't mind paying for. Like you say, it's for a sustainable future with cleaner water. If that was genuinely to become the goal at the end, £157 on top of your bill from today to 5 years' time. Yes, I believe you both wouldn't mind paying if it was going to the infrastructure.
There is a threshold about the amount that you can extract from people. But yes, I agree with the principle that pay, if we're going to get a better service, maybe we should pay a bit more. But as I said, that people are really struggling right now. The last thing they need is yet another bill going up.